Among the books Louise wrote was New Mutants, where she and artist Rob Liefeld created Cable. There's always these arguments out there about who creates what, who's responsible for what. What is your recollection of how Cable came to be?
The Professor Xavier was out of the picture at that point, and I had the New Mutants, who were the younger team, operating pretty much on their own. And Bob Harras, who was the editor-in-chief, said, I want a grown-up in charge of them. I wanted someone who would treat them like shock troops, as if they were in a war that he knew about, but maybe they didn't. A character who would come from the future, having known what the future held, and would go back in time to try to avert that future and to use the New Mutants as part of his plan. Rob Liefeld was drawing the book at that point and sent in drawings of a batch of characters, one of whom I think was to be called Strife, who was supposed to be a villain. And Bob and I both loved his look, and it turned out to be Cable. This guy should be the leader. He's not the bad guy, he's the leader. And Rob said, okay, well, he could be the leader, but he has to be called Cable. I didn't have a better name for him.
Hey you guys, it's Rob. It's Monday. Are you ready for story time with Rob? Because here it goes. A lot of people have been asking me about the history of Cable lately, which is interesting. That story is always a fun one. It doesn't go away. It's ingrained, and he's always looking at me on my desk, this awesome bobblehead. So about 1989, well, in 1988, Bob Harras, who was the editor of Marvel Comics, had called and asked for me to come over and to be a part of the X-Men office. So I said, yeah, I'd love to. That was the highest selling office in the land. There was no bigger family of books. However, they had one book that was lagging behind that they were about to cancel, and it was called The New Mutants. It didn't have Wolverine, it didn't have any of the cool characters, and the book had been kind of falling below the sales threshold for several years. I kept buying it because I was a completist, but I had lost interest in it as well. And when he asked me if I was interested in it, I said, well, you know, let's think about what can we do with the book. And he said, well, look, here's the deal. I'm moving the creative team off this book, and the writer is not going to be on the book much longer, so you can fill it with your own ideas, and you can have as much fun with it as you possibly can, because we're going to cancel it otherwise. It's kind of a blank slate. You can go up, you can make it your own fixer-upper. He said, but I do want you to think about making a leader. And I said, yeah, because I wasn't really enjoying Magneto being the leader of the group as he had been recently, and they were kind of aimless. So I called him back, and there was a character that I had put in a pitch for a book called Alpha Flight that they'd been doing that was going to be heavily more skewed towards Wolverine, and I had inserted this character that Wolverine had a past with named Cable. Well, I shifted that character into this. I actually took everything from my Alpha Flight proposal and I put it into my New Mutants proposal. And I said, Bob, here's this guy. His name's Cable. I was really wanting and trying to create another Wolverine, man of mystery. I said he comes from the future, far-flung future. I said like 30th century. I was obsessed with Kang the Conqueror. He was my favorite character in all of Marvel, and I was trying desperately. Maybe he came from a timeline and he has some sort of ties with Kang the Conqueror. Bob wanted Kang the Conqueror to stay in the Avengers family and for me to make Cable more mutant-centric. So I said to Bob, well, here's what is crucial to me. He needs to know how every one of the X-Men died. He needs to know it. And he's back here to change that course. And Bob said, I'm loving this. Let's do this. I then submitted looks, and I had seen how Art Adams had submitted, character designs before, so I wanted to make up my own, and hopefully they'd see print. And as I've been sharing, a lot of stuff I've been sharing is from, again, Marvel publications. That you can see a lot of this stuff. These interviews cover a lot of my different plans that I was developing at the time. This awesome hardcover X-Force Under the Gun in the very back. I remember when they called me a couple years ago when they made this trade paperback, they called me up and they said, Rob, we found all your original stuff. Because even here, if you read here in the Rob Liefeld sketchbook, okay, here, let's get a good shot of that. Okay, so in the Rob Liefeld sketchbook, it says right here, it says, thought lost for decades. These character designs, color studies date from the beginning of Rob Liefeld's run on New Mutants in 1989 and show the style and many of the characters that would later appear here and in X-Force. And there it is. There's my original. They found all the copies that I had sent them of all the different characters that I had designed and new characters that I was introducing. You'll see Strife was a new character I introduced. All of the Mutant Liberation characters. I mean, I gave them a generous helping of new designs and new characters and new ideas. And had they not signed off on this, I wasn't doing it. I was also, at the time, I was a hot young talent in the business, and I was offered the Hulk. I was offered Doctor Strange. A book that I had tried to get onto as well was called The Young Avengers. It would later be called The New Warriors. But my studio mate at the time, Jim Valentino, and we had pitched a thing for The Young Avengers. But the editor, one of the senior editors named Mark Grunwald, called me. He's the guy who actually hired me and gave me my work at Marvel Comics and said, Rob, I know you're trying to do this Young Avengers, but everyone's excited about you getting on the New Mutants. Why don't you take the bird in the hand? And he gave me a much longer dissertation of that, but it was great advice. I went on to the New Mutants. Bob Harras promised me I could incorporate Cable in the manner that I wanted. And he also promised that I would be taking over the book. He also promised that I'd be taking over the book as the writer shortly down the line. So I went on New Mutants knowing that the book would be under my guidance, and proceeded from there. And matter of fact, the reason Wolverine is in New Mutants 93 and 94 is because I fought hard for him. I had to put a submission in to have Wolverine in the book. I wanted Wolverine and Cable to have an established history. That was something that I always had, even back in my Alpha Flight proposal. And so, Cable came on board, and the book changed. The book's tone changed. I think, again, people of the era, the teenagers who bought New Mutants, the stores who sold it, would tell you, as they always have, that New Mutants radically changed. You had my energy immediately, and my thoughts and the things that I was consuming. I was 21 years old, watched a lot of action films, absorbed a lot of music videos, and brought a different page design and a different element. And all of that, again, is covered. This is also a great interview with Comic Scene, which was owned by Starlog at the time. This is a whopper. I pulled this out. I mean, this bad boy. This is a whopper of an interview. It's one of my favorites. It lays everything on the line. I've been sharing some of these excerpts, but when you guys ask me questions now, I can either opt to do it in tweets, which then get retweeted, and I think everyone likes to put some sort of anger with my tweets that doesn't belong there at all. These are books published by Marvel, okay? And they're great history books. I love them. I have tons of them. These are just two of many that I have. And in these books, they recall what happened during that period, during that time. And what's really fun is you go right here, and it's called The Image Age of Comics, which alludes to the company that my friends and I would form. And, in a Marvel comic, it's called The Birth of the Image Age. There's all New Mutants right there. And right here in this page, it talks about, it says Rob Liefeld's X-Force. Rob Liefeld's X-Force. And it talks about, written and illustrated by Rob Liefeld. X-Force was an ultra-violent embrace of futuristic war visuals and flashy mutant-themed splash pages. As Cable took control of the ragtag team of youths, formerly calling themselves the New Mutants, he brought with his leadership a more progressive view on the ongoing mutant struggle by attacking others before the mutants could be attacked. That was the entire pitch that I gave for Cable. When Bob informed the writer that I was coming on board, those aren't stories I was privy to. I just knew here's another Marvel Universe book published by Marvel, and I am gifted with an entire page here, Rob Liefeld's X-Force. This was a huge sea change. I was really excited. I was a young kid. I was making my mark, and Cable made his mark. He was a man of mystery, a man of many mysteries. I remember, for instance, one time, one of the guys in the office said, "You put the scar on the wrong eye. The scar should be on the eye where the bionic is." And I looked at them like, what a ridiculous assumption. No, that scar across that eye is a story. they just assumed, well, there was surgery to put this eye in, and that's where the scar came from. And I'm like, you're presuming a lot. You don't know anything about this. In X-Force 1 is the first time that I showed that he had telekinetic powers. And Domino says, what are you doing? Do you want everybody to find out? ... And he's like, what he's alluding to is that he's a Summers, that he's the son of Scott and Jean, Madeline, all of it. Timelines, future. Really, it's a great time revisiting these stories. I love retelling them. You know, I've got, I mean, right here, within my reach, check this out, you know. This is the statue of Strife, which I created, and can't believe there's an actual statue of this guy. He is so amazing. It's always looking at me right over here on the shelf. But, you know, it's been great. Cable has had umpteen action figures, some of which you might have right here. Okay, guys? So, yo. There's the story of Cable and all his conceits and the origin and how he came to be, and the fact that Bob Harras was willing to broker a deal with a young 20-something kid who brought Cable into the fold and transformed my career. I know, transformed my career. If Bob doesn't call me, if we don't initiate those talks, there is no Cable. There was no other design. I didn't design a character. That robs me of so much, saying that I designed some character or I just named him. No, Cable was completely 100% pitched by me to Marvel. And if they hadn't accepted him, I don't do that job. He comes in my second issue. He comes in right in my second issue, along with all those other characters I created, Mutant Liberation Front and Strife. And again, our sales went, we, you know, went on to be the best-selling comic. So really fun reliving this stuff with you guys. Hope you are having a great Monday. More story time with Rob soon enough.